Okay, good morning, guys. It is August 27th, 2023. We are starting the show at 8:03 in the AM on a Sunday, Eastern Standard Time. Hope everything is everybody's doing well. Different setup this morning, coming to you from the living room. Let me know if you can hear me. Let me know if you can see me. And of course, it is a rainy Sunday, so the light is what it is. We always do the shows on the rainy Sundays because when I was a kid, you'd stay outside, but if it was raining, you got to get a stack of comic books, jump on the bed, listen to the rain hit the roof as you're in a glorious four color world. Hope everybody's having a good weekend. And I'm so punk and cool. I've got my Ramones coffee cup this morning, so grab a cup of coffee and stick around for about an hour here. So yesterday was a glorious day, as it was a little down during the week. Uh, Not feeling well, but then turned it around. Ended up going to a comic book convention. Went with the buddies Josh. Met the Independence crew of Independence, Virginia crew of Tim, David, Chris. Got to the comic book convention. It is the Virginia Vintage and Collectible Show out of Salem. I have a flyer, but I didn't bring it upstairs. And it amazes me because this is one of the smaller grassroots comic book conventions that you can go to. A lot of dealers come up. Sheldon Drum of Heroes Con of Heroes Aren't Hard to Find out of Charlotte, North Carolina. He comes to it for fun. Had a little talk with him. I'll talk about that. But it blew my mind that I've been going to this thing probably for 18, 19 years, and it kind of slipped by. I didn't realize it was going for so long. And it seems like all except for maybe 1 or 2 years, I always find great stuff. It's just fantastic. People come to this thing for, you never know where they want to come from. I've met people that have come all the way down from Maine before to Virginia, Washington, D.C. And I think the people who had the best set of comics for the deals, if you will, came up from Georgia, and I've got their card on the table over there. But anyway, might talk about them in the future. So anyway, ended up seeing a lot of great people that I usually only see in cons. We pick up the conversations from where we're at, and just had a really good time. Great lunch, great friends, great comics, and we're probably going to get to them, right? So just to before we get started here, I want to show you an eBay haul. One thing I got off eBay, and then something I found at an Ollie's, which I just love finding these. Right. So if you have me on Instagram, Howler Mouse on Instagram, go to Instagram, add me, and then if with this channel, go ahead and thumbs up, subscribe if you haven't already. The honor is all mine, if you will. Anyway, but I sat there and I was like, over here you can't see, but I have a stack of books, and I was going by and I was reading the second Neil Gaiman Death miniseries from the late '90s, The Time of Your Life. The first one was A Cost of Living, and for some reason it just dawned on me as I was rearranging stuff and organizing downstairs that I had not really paid a lot of attention to to the second miniseries. I just happened to be reading it, and it had an editorial by Tim Truman, if you know who that is. And he was talking about how he got with Robert Hunter of Grateful Dead, and they came out with this one shot that's a horror love story, all sorts of things. You might want to check it out because the guy who writes the lyrics for the Grateful Dead wrote a story with them. So I got on eBay, and lo and behold, not only did I find this, but I somehow got this like in 2 or 3 days. That's the best turnaround. And on Instagram, I put up a few pics and the actual editorial and issue of the Death miniseries where the editorial was. One of the few times it was an impulse buy just from somebody reading about the labor of passion. It's called Dog Moon. I put a few pictures up, and it seems like it's pretty cool. Seems like it's going to be pretty cool, very rustic. I kind of like when we get different takes on stories from people who aren't into comics, as long as they are doing something original and not changing things or not following continuity or anything over characters that it's obvious they never read before, much like Tom King and Bendis have done. So I said it, yes. But anyway, Dog Moon, even if the story isn't that good, the art in it is very glorious and stuff, right? And now on to the actual. Oh, one more thing here, right? So we stopped at an Ollie's on the way out of Salem, Virginia. It's pretty much Roanoke, Roanoke, Virginia. And I have one of these. I have a Veronica, but for some reason, the outlet store has these. There were 5 of them. I've never seen them for sale anywhere else, but usually what happens with the outlet stores is they'll have one box of one figure that they put out, right? So one Ollie's somewhere like over the last 6 or 7 months had Veronica. These are all the ones you can get. And this store had Jughead. So, to be honest, I would love to have a full set of these. But if I find an Archie, I think I'll be pretty happy. That's Archie, Jughead, Veronica. It'd be great to have Betty. Reggie's just an ass. So I don't know really about needing him. All right. That's right. Grown man now. So when I got to the vintage show, rode down with Josh. We had some great comic book talk, a little YouTube talk. Apparently, I'm really going to have to expand my YouTube watching when it comes to comics on YouTube. And I actually had a few things that I knew about and just wanted to talk about. Then we get to the show, and we got there pretty early. And and when we got there, it was like we got here just in time. I've done the show for so long, I know when the competition is going to hit. So as I make my way around, the first thing I saw and the first thing I knew I was going to buy was this. And I'm going to go ahead and tell you, it was $10. I think it was a fantastic price for this. I didn't even try to haggle. And it is this great limited. This is a series called Limited Collector's Editions. I think this is from 1977. I had one or two friends who had this laying around in their house when I was growing up. And of course, it wasn't in our house. And if you know what this is Denny O'Neil and Neil Adams. And they've taken a Raj Al Ghul story, and they've given it the Treasury Edition treatment, and it is fantastic. Not real sure exactly what issues are being reprinted in here, but 232, 242, possibly 243 of Batman, and the cover of 244. And this cover cracks me up because I think it was Neil Adams who pointed out, aren't the people who buy this comic going to realize that Batman still has his pants on when Raj Al Ghul has stolen his costume? And it was either Denny or an editor said they're not going to notice, and nobody noticed for decades. It probably didn't really come out until the internet. But anyway, I saw this some of our, when I was little, I saw this floating around one or two houses. I always wished I'd had it. Now, here's the sad thing. When I was in 4th grade, so this was 1983-ish, I know I had a friend named Jason. Jason is the guy that he liked what he liked. It wasn't that he was into comics, it's that he liked G.I. Joe. He liked Rom. He had some Transformers. He was also the first guy that I ever saw that would take his G.I. Joe figures, unscrew them in the back, and mix and match and make his own G.I. Joe. I mean, to me, that was almost blasphemous. You know what I'm saying? But it was brave, right? And he had I know it was a Treasury edition of Batman. And I just kind of flipped it open, and it was like this splash page of Batman laying on the ground, and his cape was behind him. You know what I mean? And you saw the wing pattern in it as he's laying there. I have no idea what that was. So if anybody knows that panel, or the Treasury edition or the comic, leave me a comment. I would love to find that, because that's all I have of the memory is that one splash page. So we'll just put that down. Okay. And then, okay, I'll save this for last here, but we'll go over here. Now, all of these that I'm going to show you, I'm pretty sure, except for one more comic, I believe, were in dollar boxes. And I think I got something like 23 books for $20 here and there. One of these books stuck to the back, and I was like, oh, that's horrible and stuff, right? So from this one, I think these are all from one guy who came up from, I think, Cherry Pickers. I think they called their little company Cherry Pickers, and they're out of Atlanta. And he claimed that he had just bought 4 collections of comics 3 or 4 days before the convention. Didn't even go through them, brought them up, had them for $1. And he had like a little $3 bin and a few things. and the competition was fierce. There was several times that I was like the runt of the litter. Everybody was elbow to elbow in all the boxes, and little Howler Mouse is back, trying to find a spot to get in. And while I'm looking at this, I'm seeing people picking out gems and stuff, right? There's a really nice guy named Don. Don recognized me from YouTube, but he was very cool about it. I know I've met him before, probably at this convention, and he whipped out, and he's going to laugh if he's watching this, but I was happy for him, and yet I was having that damn it moment because he picked out a ton of Charlton Comics, The Phantom, from the comic strips books. But anyway, I was able to get in there and get a few things that are mixed through here and everything, right? But we'll start out slow, but I had to get this. I'm a Game and Sandman fan, and Destiny is part of the Endless if you read the book. And believe it or not, there's a lot of people who just read Sandman. They're not into comics. Sandman has always brought in people from outside of comics to read, and they don't realize that Destiny is already an established character in the DC universe. He actually was, I think, a host of a short-lived horror comic or something. I don't know. Marv Wolfman brought him into this Superman book, right? So I wanted to grab that, and when I got in the car, this was stuck to it. Superman 19, right after, well, it's by Byrne and John Beatty, but Byrne was about to leave. I already had this, but I was like, oh no, I stole a comic. What am I going to do? Okay. And then I had to get this because it has the great Tom Sutton, and it should be the Tom Sutton of Charlton fame and horror books fame and things like that. But in 1989, James DeMantis did a run on Dr. Fate. If you were into the Justice League books by Giffen and DeMantis, you probably got these, but they were direct to market, so Howler Mouse didn't. But I wanted to check it out, and I've got a bit of a collection over the last 2 years, and this is the annual that he did, and I was really excited to see that Tom Sutton had done the art. Jim Fern, this says Kent Nelson. I believe he is supposed to be hugging the tombstone of Kent Nelson on this cover, but it's so dark, who knows. But yeah, a little oddity there. Hey, good morning, John C. Right? And then I about fell down when I saw these. Now, these are not the near mint condition that they're going to be portrayed as here and stuff, right? Little beat up, but it's all right. I love this series, and actually, I think this number 41 may be in the last of the series until Blackest Night brought it back for one issue. But we got a little Phantom Stranger with some Dead Man in it, which I couldn't believe was left in there. I was reaching the point there were so many people going through these boxes that when I got to some of the boxes, they had gaps in them where they were packed tight, and now there's gaps. And I tried not to think of all the stuff that I could not get to. I mean, I did all right, in issue 41 with another Dead Man. So apparently somebody was a Dead Man fan, if I had to guess, more than a Phantom Stranger fan. So, and I believe this was the last issue of the 70s series. So I get to I'm getting quite the collection of these without even trying. So that's pretty good running across those. These were fun to find. John Byrne came on, and he spent, I want to say, 3 years, maybe 36 issues in the late 90s doing Wonder Woman. And, Prez had done this epic run on it. Messner Loebs came on, did this epic run on it with Mike Deodato Jr., and then they come in with Byrne. And Byrne sort of brought it back into, being a bit more of a Wonder Woman comic stories, if you will, without trying to do the big changes. Brought in a few guest stars, had her fight some villains she had never fought before, then got into the storyline of her dying and becoming a goddess and all that things, right? And for some reason, those issues in the 120s are just hard to find. I have no idea why, right? So anyway, 126, A World Without Wonder Woman. 124, this is actually some kind of key book, and it's got a Jose Garcia Lopez cover on it. Sorry about the glare. Into the Depths of Hell. So I guess that's where she was wounded, and 125 apparently is where she dies. And as you can see, this is right in the 90s, 1997 to be exact, where we have that god-awful Superman costume with the powers that are not Superman powers, they're electro powers. They played around with Superman Red, Superman Blue with this. Grant Morrison had to work around his Justice League run because of this. And just when I see this should be about Wonder Woman and her story, but I'm just like, that just triggers me. That just pisses me off so bad. That costume on Superman, one of the worst. So derivative of other stuff that Dan Jurgens did, right? And then I'm going to save this to the side. I want to talk about a book or two here, right? So these also came out of dollar boxes. Probably the same guy, but this one cracked me up. I had this Teen Titan run from 2002 that Jeff Johns did. I was at the ground level, sold a bunch of them. I've reclaimed a bunch of them, and I really would like the number one. So I've talked about my G Mart comic book shop that I order from, and this was around the time that I found that I was ordering from them. They sent me this fantastic sketch cover that may have been a second print or something, right? I was silly to sell it, right? So this had multiple printings, and it just cracked me up that as I have started trying to find the Teen Titans number one, from the Jeff Johns run, the very one I had. See, it was a Mike Turner cover, and then it was a Mike Turner sketch cover, and we know Mike Turner is hot. He has his fans. But I laughed when I was flipping through there, and not and lots some of these books were in alphabetical order, and this is just stuck in the ends and stuff, right, randomly. But yeah, I found a Teen Titans number one with a Mike McCone cover, probably a third print because it has the UPC symbol. If you don't know what print your book is, and it does have a UPC symbol, look at this last number. It should be 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. That'll tell you what print it is. But I just laughed because I've been trying to find this, and I'm like, there it is. It came to me, right? I've learned to be a little bit more forgiving of that Jeff Johns run, right? This was an upgrade, but it's also a newsstand, right? When it came to X-Men and Titans, I think around issue 23, I finally came around to the Titans, if you will, right? I can actually find it. When you open the splash page, it has like Superman, Batman, Night, we just some of the Justice League members walking around in speed, I don't know, in a spaceship or something with the Justice League. But there's two heroes carrying Cyborg because one of his legs have been blown off, and he's whining about being a cyborg. Anyway, but this was just an upgrade that I had when I went through my collection the other day. My number 25 was pretty beat up, and I laughed because this was just like a random issue of Titans stuck in one of the boxes. And I'm like, that's the one I was looking for. This also was an upgrade because when I got my Green Lantern books out, this one was water damaged. I don't remember how it was water damaged, so I laughed when I found this one also. It's like everything I've been like wishing to find just to upgrade. They were like right there in this box. It was hilarious. You either like Guy Gardner or you don't. I'm a Gardner fan, and maybe it's not fan. I'm like infamous. You know what I mean? Like it's like Gardner would like grate my nerves a little bit, but I wanted more. You know what I mean? It's like wrestling. You would pay money to see somebody beat his ass. You know what I'm saying? But over the years, he's become like lovable and humbleable. You know what I mean? He's like your asshole friend, but he's your asshole. You know what I mean? So that's always fun. And I laugh about this one. This is the second one I found. Again, I think I got like 23 books for $20 off this guy. So this was less than $1. And this one is beat up. And there's a whole run in there that I really, really thought about getting, right? Because when these TSR books came out, this was when my group, my campaign of 5 years was sort of breaking up because everybody's graduated, little howler mouse. But everybody was kind of growing up and having to go to college or military or move or whatever they did. And this is actually when I kind of fell out of D&D because I tried to do another campaign with a whole new group of people, and the spark for me just was not there. Great guys, they knew what they were doing, don't get me wrong, but it was just not the people that I did not have the history with them to reference and stuff, right? But this book apparently has been hot. This is the second one I found for $1. They had a huge run of this. I kind of wonder if I should have gotten it because Forgotten Realms was my comic of choice. They had Advanced Dungeons and Dragons, and I dropped that book and actually sold it because the art in it was atrocious. Sorry, Jan DeRussa, if that's how you say the name. And then they had, I've got random issues of like Spellbinder and TSR Annual, but Rags Morales and Jeff Grubb coming in. They had people who worked at TSR working on these books when DC got the license. But Forgotten Realms was the one I really enjoyed. So yeah, Dragonlance, my second copy I found in dollar boxes. But like I said, this one is not meant by any means. I just think it's funny to find these hotkey books. And when you get off the internet, you're going to realize they're still out there in the wild. These two books were fun to find because one I didn't know anything about, and the other one I've seen the pinups in them. I had this one series in mostly in trade, even though I had number one and sold it around 2010, just a few years before it exploded because of the TV show, and went into the around $300 at the time. But this book, I was explaining to Josh while we were driving back that Lobo started out as Keith Giffen doing a bit of a parody, a satire of what he was hating that was popping up in comics, like anti-heroes and stuff, your Wolverines, your Punishers, and whatnot, right? And then in 19, he grew in popularity, and Giffen didn't get it, but they did this 4-issue miniseries in 1990. Number one was $1, and it had this new artist for a lot of people, Simon Bosley, coming on, man, and you had like this heavy metal hilarious Last Caesarean miniseries, right? Well, this is from 1998, and apparently Simon Bosley returned to Lobo for this Elseworld story, Batman Lobo, and this was half off. This was actually $3. Now that I'm thinking about it, but it was cracking me up because I have never seen this before. I didn't know this existed, and I think this is from '98, so this one makes sense. I don't know if it's '98, but at least the cover was created in '98. Who knows when it was released? But in '98, I became a father. So a lot of still getting comics. Don't get me wrong, still doing my thing, but it was less of a priority. You know what I mean? I had more fun, being a father, if that makes any sense. And then there's several Punisher issues. They may pop up in here. Maybe I got them. Maybe I didn't. I don't know. But I found a bunch of Punishers for $1. But we definitely went with issue 50 because I like the pinup galleries that they used to do in comics. And you got Jim Lee and Tim Bradstreet, Joe Quesada, John McCrae. If you're around in the '90s, these were names. I mean, so especially Glenn Farby. I think he's in here. Yeah, Glenn Fabry. Excuse me, Fabry. But anyway, I have, pretty sure I have all the Preachers in trade. Maybe I'm missing one or something. But if I was going to recommend one Preacher story, it would be Until the End of the World. That's the second trade. I think that's one of the best comic book stories of all time. But get those. But I'm really looking forward to reading this Batman Lobo. And I'm just now realizing, I'm like, is that Batmite? Is that supposed to be a Batmite done Simon Bosley style? Even if the stories are weak, the Bosley art will keep you coming back. Oh, we got people coming in. Good morning, guys. Hope you can hear me just fine. Of course, we have to be like John C. You have to be, you need to be subscribed and hit that bell to know when these shows are coming up to get alerted. The Hotel Olaf. Olaf. Good morning. Great to see you. Good morning, Mr. Gallant. Great to see you too. And Sir Badger, thank you for popping up on a Sunday morning, man. All right. Great. And we're moving on. I'm going to save a few of these books towards the end because I have a few things to say about them. I'm going to leave some of the sweeter stuff towards the end, if you will. All right. Just to get these out of the way, let's hit some Marvel books and stuff, right? So I've had this thing on the very box that I have put this computer on with two other books to raise it up is my New Universe box, right? And I was 13 when the New Universe came out. There was hype. There was excitement. The books looked cool. And when you started reading them, you immediately knew these were going to be hit or miss, even with my 13-year-old mind having a little bit of denial because I'm like, I missed Marvel in 1961 because I wasn't born. I'll be damned if I miss this New Universe from Marvel. And missed out on a lot of other books because of the fundage from the allowance. I was 13. Now we had skating rinks to go to and things to figure out and walking around town and trying to get my comics and making sure I had others, shooting pool. Shooting pool was a big deal, I had to go to some movies. There were great movies on, and all that stuff, right? But immediately over the last few years, I've always had a soft spot for the New Universe. Don't get me wrong, right? Cyforce, Starbrand, DP7, 3 books that I still love to this day. And it started out with a comparison that was a little bit of a backhand, and then it sort of came true, but with the quality of a lot of comics. All right, let's say over the last 7 years, to be nice, maybe 5 years, it's starting to make New Universe look like Shakespeare. You know what I mean? And I recently just found out the new universe actually started becoming profitable when they just ditched it because it was a Jim Shooter thing. They were like, yeah, whatever. They saved the line, actually started making it profitable. If you don't know, the new universe got announced and then they pulled the budget from it. Yes, comics have a budget, you know. But anyway, for some reason, this was a book that really pissed me off 4 or 5 issues in. It was just so bad, in my opinion, right? A bunch of football players, or a football player, one of them gets powers, and they ended up doing Kickers Incorporated, which is like a poor man's like Ghostbuster, like Heroes for Hire, whatever, you know, Mr. Magnificent. You know what I mean? I was like, oh, this is so bad, you know. But apparently, I got rid of this over the years, and I have all the new universe #1s, at least, you know, some complete runs or soon to be complete runs. But apparently, I got rid of Kickers Incorporated. I'm probably going to be a lot more forgiving when I read this now, you know. A lot of the universe concepts, it was supposed to be in the new world, and they were supposed to get away from tropes, even though they didn't use that word back then. And as you started reading it, you realized a lot of this stuff wasn't that original, you know. Yeah, deep. Not mind the comics. Good morning, right? Yeah, and enjoy the new universe too, especially DP7. DP7 and Starbrand are definitely two of my favorite series out of that whole thing. I have a soft spot for Cyforce because the leader of that one on the cover, if you put a little bit more of a mullet on him, that's what I looked like when I was 13, down to the camouflage pants and high tops. And I had neon yellow strings that I had weaved into my shoelaces on my shoes. It was wild. My friends even noticed I looked like that one guy, right? And then for some reason, even though Spectacular Spider-Man is not that, yeah, we have a cat. Lester, get down. Lester, down. Come on, get down. Oh, I'm sorry you have to see me discipline a cat this morning. Lester, down. Don't sass me. Down. Get down. Down. Thank you. All right. Kids, man. God. Anyway. But even though Spectacular Spider-Man is not the main Spider-Man series, it seems like certain issues become impossible to find, even if they're not like worth anything, right? But for years, I've been like competing. Yeah, he got in trouble. Yeah. Did you hear him sass me? Did you hear that? Yeah. But anyway, I've been completing stuff like Blackest Night, the crossovers, Invasion, yeah, Secret Wars 2, doing all that things. And I think these 2 issues should complete the Inferno run finally because they were impossible to find. But it's the 2 issues of Spectacular Spider-Man that comes into Inferno. And I'm guessing it has something to do with the Hobgoblin that came out of Inferno. I don't know. Who knows? I'll have to go back and read them, right? Funnily enough, I've shown it before, and if you dig through the Instagram, maybe I'll pop it up and do a review of it, but I have the omnibus that I found at Ollie's Outlet for, I think, less than $30 of the complete Inferno crossover, if you guys were there in the late 80s and stuff, the big X-Men crossover where we finally had, was that the one? No, that was Fall of the Mutants where we finally had Excalibur, or X-Factor versus X-Men. But Inferno was fantastic. Really enjoyed that one. So yeah, we now have the complete run of it. Sal Buscema around this time completely morphed and changed his art style and stayed contemporary and did a fantastic run on this. And I'm so glad I got to meet him in 2000, 2001, something like that, at Heroes Con, and actually had to talk with him. And what was so fantastic about it, I found out he actually lived in Virginia, even though it was on the east side and I live on the west side. And his wife was there, and his wife just sat there just staring at him, so proud of him, knowing that, you know, having all these fans really probably surprised him. And he was so humble, and he was doing sketches for free. Sorry, I'm having the memories are coming back. And he was apologizing for them not being perfect and rushed. And the people were so nice to him, like, no, you know, they're very appreciative. Man, it's really cool to think back that to realize you knew it was cool being there and you appreciate it, but you didn't realize later in the years how lucky you were. You know, amazing. Anyway, moving on. Got some Hulk books, and one of these still cracks me up, right? So this is number 14, not the Devil Hulk issue, but it has the Devil Dogs. And when we had that first Hulk movie in the 2000s that I enjoyed, you know what I mean? I enjoyed. And if I remember right, the same guy that did Brokeback Mountain did the first Hulk, and it had the dogs in them, right? It had the Gamma dogs in them, right? I used to have this entire run of this volume of Incredible Hulk. Ron Garney did Paul Jenkins, Ron Garney. I enjoyed it. I can't remember why I got rid of it. It's very rare for me to get rid of I didn't get rid of them. It's that infamous story where in 2010 I was moving out of Roanoke and I was loading up the U-Haul by myself. And after I had gotten moved and started getting organized and actually starting YouTube, if you go back to my first videos, I didn't know YouTube was going to be a thing. I just knew that I had moved to a place where I was going to have to put my boxes in a huge closet. So I would number the boxes, number one, and then I made a video for each box showing my collection. And it was then that I realized that I had two boxes stolen off of that U-Haul. And one was my Kirby Fantastic Fours and some Kirby books, a lot of Silver Age books from Marvel, because I'm a Kirby nut, and my Incredible Hulk box. Yeah, that's what happened. So anyway, we found this one, and then the Immortal Hulk. I had to come around to this, right? This is the book, if you've watched me, that people would recommend in live shows, in private, and we would talk about it, right? This cover is not getting the admiration it needs. This is number 16. I think this is where Red Harpy finally shows up for Betty Brant. Anyway, this is number 16, right? And I finally gave in and I read them and I could tell this was a great book. But my thing is that in the late 80s and 90s, every book from Marvel was this good. This would have been just a typical book on the stands when the books were selling 100,000 copies a piece, at all. And then I sat down and I finally read it from the beginning instead of sporadic little trades I would find or, little issues here and there. And when I got to, I don't know what it was, issue 8 or something, I was like, this is glorious. The Hulk had been cut up into pieces and his body parts were in jars on a shelf with his head just bobbing and floating in a jar while he was watching the guy that did it in a spaceship. Horror, sci-fi, everything. And I was like, oh, this is so good. So yeah, the Immortal Hulk is one of those, right? Well, the book is hot. I have gone to comic book conventions over the last 2 years where people were trying to sell cop issues for $30 and $40. Meanwhile, I'm in flea markets and little conventions like this, and I'm finding them for $1 a piece. I have bound to have 2/3 of this series now collected, and I'm enjoying it. So yeah, love my Hulk. Love my Hulk. Oh, what time is it? Yeah, we're doing good on time. We're leaving here in a little while, so I still gotta get ready. So these next two books are completing sets also. Issue 101. This was the last Warren Ellis issue of Excalibur I needed from the 90s. And it kind of cracks me up because to me, it seems like Warren Ellis was always a star, but people talk about Doom 2099. You get in the shower? When we turn the camera around when you pop out? Sure. Okay. Anyway, so Warren Ellis did this. And to me, it seems like Warren Ellis was always a star, if you will. Warren Ellis is really somebody I can separate the artist from the art. And I will totally not. You look pretty this morning. She doesn't want to be on camera. But anyway, so his Excalibur run, Doom 2099, those earlier things before he was considered a star, I'm completing. And Excalibur was I loved the Chris Claremont, Alan Davis issues throughout and stuff, right? So we have that one. And since I have like 4 or 5 issues of number 1, we have to have a number 0. And again, funny story. I finally broke down, and believe it or not, trying to get Excalibur 125, the final issue, is actually a bit of a pain. People are, inflating the price for it because it's the last issue, and they always try to do the thing where they're like, oh, it's had a low print run and stuff. Yet when you go to comicbook.realm and real Overstreet and things like that, and find out the actual price, ends up being a $3 or $4 book that people are wanting outrageous prices. So I found one on eBay that was actually priced pretty well. The description said it was like, near mint or something like that, and there was no shipping. Still came to like $6 or $7, but I was cool with that, right? I get the book, and they packed it horribly. They stuck it in a manila envelope in a backing board and bag like this. This was creased down on this side. We had a staple about to pop. I actually got a refund, sent it back to them. I rarely do that, but this was pretty bad. It wasn't the $6, $7. It was the principal. Got it. And then 3 days later, after mailing that one back off, and somehow the mail was just on it, they got it pretty quick. I got my refund. I found this in a dollar box. I'm like, are you kidding me? 3 days later, this worked out so well. Excalibur, one of the better books, I think. You know. Oh wow, we got some comments here. Cyforce was one of my favorites in DP7. Mine, yeah, mine as well. The first Daredevil comic I ever read was the Inferno issue. Fantastic book. But I think John Romita did some really cool art if we're thinking of the same issue. And don't know why I never read this solo title before, but it's a great memory. Fantastic. And the Graphic Man is here. Hope you're doing well. You're in a nice new different location for this broadcast and a new hat. The budget has increased. I kid. We're moving up in the world. You know, you figure after well, oh my God, how long has it been? 11, 12 years doing YouTube. I might want to take it serious one day. Great to see you, man. Hope you're doing well. And speaking of the fossils here and stuff like that, tonight is on Captain Strangelife's channel. Make sure you check it out. I think he go to his page. Captain Strangelife is celebrating 14 years on this on YouTube. I'm probably going to pop on the show. He asked me a month ago if I would have time to pop in or at least be in the comments section. But he'll be having a live show celebrating 14 years. And for you guys who have not been around the entire 14 years or anything like that, Captain Strangelife is the godfather of the comic book community. He started it all here. So even with your big channels and things like that, they would not be here if it was not for Captain Strangeliffe. So make sure you pop in and see that. And Mike, I hope you're doing well, buddy. So, like I said, this was the con of filling in gaps and issues and stuff like that, which was fantastic. And actually got an upgrade of a few issues, right? But Micronauts. I have run across dealers more than one time who told me that even when they were a kid, they didn't really read comics, but they read Micronauts, toy tie-in. And it's due to my age, but I came at the age of the Star Wars toys. I missed Micronauts probably by like 6 months. You know what I mean? Because it's just my age. And apparently you can tell these guys who were like probably born in between 67 and 1970, if I had to guess, they were the ones that seem in my walks of life that were into the Micronaut toys before Star Wars came in. And we all know the infamous story, or you should, of how a toy company had a chance to get the Star Wars toys, but they wanted these Japanese toys better, Micronauts and stuff. Really missed out. So the book came out. Mike Golden has his fans and stuff like that. And like I said, I know people who love this series and stuff, right? Well, I came in years late. I saw the X-Men versus Micronauts miniseries. I saw an issue here or there. I was a Star Wars, G.I. Joe, He-Man guy, right? So I didn't really kind of get it. And they really weren't in the house that much, right? And then all of a sudden, over the years, I'd pick up an issue here and slowly started getting it, right? So as much as Mike Golden is the man when it comes to, I guess, the Micronauts and stuff, it was the Butch Geist, Jackson Geist issues that came in that made me get it, later series, right? So now I think I need one issue of Micronauts and I will have the complete volume 1. And I really got to sit down. I have quite a few complete runs now. I need to really sit down and decide if I'm going to go on to the second volume with Pat Broderick and stuff, right? And there's also a little bit of a bummer of reading certain books and it's Bill Mantlo, considering what has happened to him with I think he was hit with a car. He has very bad brain damage. And I actually got to see a few pictures of the state he's in. And all the fun that they have to do. But we got an upgrade of number 7. There's 2 or 3 issues I probably need to upgrade with the Man-Thing. I do have the great First Appearance of Captain Universe that people have gone nuts for. This is a key book, but this is a great Mike Golden cover with number 9. Number 48, like I said. The Butch Guy stuff, this blows me away. I've always had an appreciation for Jackson Guides. And number 50, very Star Wars like with the Baron here, you know. So, and look at that wraparound cover on this one. I just noticed that, and I think I knew that. So great stuff. But yeah, the Butch Guy stuff, I want to just skip ahead to all the Butch Guy stuff. Something about that era of the Micronauts, that's what I like right there, right? All right. Mind the comics. Micronauts ruled. Yes, I whole humbly am humble about it. Like, yes, they were. Yes, they are. Loved in the Micronauts before the pink creature, and I would go to service merchandise and get the toys. Still wish I had those, but they all had to go when I discovered girls. Oh, oh. The issue number 9 made me want to buy the toys. Nice, nice. Maybe when you get back on your feet, maybe we can do some Micronaut memories there and stuff. All right, so there's some good stuff here. Now we're getting to the good stuff, guys. So we're going to set this down and we're going to hold it off to the end here, right? But issue 39, nothing big here, but I think what was this, volume 3 of the Avengers? George Perez, Kurt Busiek started this out. I was on board. It was so great to see them. George Perez doing a team book at Marvel after playing around in the 90s. He was doing Ultra Force and sax and violin, having some fun other places and stuff. And But then Alan Davis came in, took over. I think they had some John Romita Jr., maybe some Kerwin Dwyer issues, some fill-ins and stuff. And this is right when I think the Kong Dynasty was taking off or about to take off. So some of these issues are kind of hard to find. So I always pick up little pieces here and there just to do this Avengers run, right? That Perez run of Avengers is just absolutely one of my favorites and stuff, right? Okay, so here's some fun stuff. I actually double dipped with this. They had 3 number ones of this, and it's funny that Graphic Man is here because I think it was on his Fossil show. I kind of mentioned it, but I have the first real appearance of X Files in comics. I was an X Files nut. I was living in a place called Coburn, Virginia, in '93 when the show started, and I actually wrote a letter to a local TV station that was an affiliate of Fox, I guess, out of Kentucky. They were across the state line. That's the only time I really did a letter campaign to get Fox back, get X Files back. So either it was a publicity stunt or I get to humble brag that I was part of a movement. Yeah, I'm sure my letter was the one that tipped it over too, you know. But anyway, the Tops, I'm going back and I'm getting into Tops books. I read a few of these when they came out and really wasn't that impressed, but there was such a glut of comics back then when this was coming out. Everybody was starting a universe. All these new companies were crashing and burning and stuff. Marvel wasn't that good at the time. And then something happened last year where I found a random issue or something like that. I have the TV guide. Anyway, the whole point is the first appearance of X Files in comics is in a TV guide, and I have it. But I went back and I read like a random issue or something that I had of X Files. Maybe I picked up one. I don't remember. And I'm like, this isn't that bad. It's actually pretty good. So I'm trying to get that volume 1 Tops Comics. They had 3 or 4 number ones. I noticed there was like some printing error on the cover. Same one with mine. Won't get into it. But apparently, for a buck, even though it's marked at $10, this was a buck. Apparently, I picked up a number 2 instead of a number 1. Like I said, it was elbow to elbow there for a while there. In issue 13. And I'm not joking. A lot of these older series that I'm trying to get, the back issue market is that cat is back up there. This is Lester. Okay. He's an asshole. Yes, you are. Get down. Get down. Just because your mommy is in the shower doesn't mean you get to come out here and have a whole new set of rules. Get down. Thank you. Anyway, so we got the X Files stuff here, and these are actually really good. I'm really enjoying them. Is the whole point. Catch myself talking about them here, right? And now this is such a joy. I decided to start reading this book because I was going through my boxes, and I have issue 1 and issue 50. That's the first issue and the last issue. And I remember kind of checking it out with Eclipse when I was able to get to comic book shops in the late 80s, thanks to the Eclipse crossover 10th anniversary Total Eclipse. So I played around. I knew about Airboy and stuff, right? But I found a huge stack of comic books. They had all their Eclipse comics for 50 cents. So these were 50 cents. And before I go on, the issue I'm really trying to find, as everybody, I knew about the book. I've just waited too long. Thought I was going to have all this time in the world. But I think it's issue 5 where it's the reappearance of Valkyrie. or first appearance of Valkyrie or whatever it is with the great Dave Stevens comic. Now, why am I bringing this up? Because since I don't have it, that's how I found the Air Boys. I was really looking for it on Amazon Prime, and I think it might be on Tubi. I'm not sure, but there is a Dave Stevens. I got to talk to Sheldon Drum from about it to let him know, and I looked it up on my phone to show him about it. But there's this fantastic documentary on Dave Stevens, the creator of Rocketeer, on his work in life that you need to watch. Okay. Very touching. And it blew my mind all the people that I have met at cons over the years where I could have asked questions if I'd known they knew him. William Strouth, Adam Hughes, Scott Shaw. Why am I going blank? Scott Shaw, Adam Hughes, William Strouth, tons of people in there. Mike Kaluta. Haven't met them, but they're all in there. A bunch of comic book guys. Jim Silk. They go over some of the stuff, the Rocketeer. They talk about him knowing Betty Page, and then they get to the end where his friends are talking about when they got the call where he's letting them know that he had hairy cell leukemia. So watch it. It's very cool. I was mesmerized. One of the best documentaries I've seen because they stayed on track and they kept it moving. You know, what is wrong with you? What is wrong, Lester? Chill out. Maybe the rain's got them going. But anyway, go watch the Dave Stevens documentary, Savages. It's good stuff, right? So here's Airboy. And these were 50 cents a piece. Like I bought them off the stands. I just noticed that, right? But here's number 8. And as I was buying these, I had several people, including the person I was buying these off of, sitting there going, man, that's a great series. That's a great read. So, just a bunch of Airboy. It cracks me up that this came out bi-weekly, and they're very small. Of course, they were 50 cents. So apparently you got to have 2 or 3 of them to have a full comic, I guess. And look at that. Speaking of Dave Stevens, right on the back of it, on the back of an issue, we get a great Dave Stevens pinup. And they talked about this briefly, actually, on that very image on the documentary I was telling you about. So yeah, a bunch of Airboy issues. And I tell you what, Eclipse was, when I finally got to a comic book shop when I was 16, between 16 and 18, it was Eclipse comics that I liked. And finally got a hold of some actual Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtle comics for my own, if you will. So thinking back, I guess those were the first real indie books I got to enjoy, I guess. I don't know. The alternative comics of the time. I prefer when they called indie books alternative comics of the 80s. So much better, I think. The Heap. I'm a sucker for Bigfoot, cavemen, and swamp monsters, apparently. And when I'm talking about Heroes Con of past day and yore, I think I've said it before, I actually got to have a talk. And of course, you don't really talk with Roy Thomas. You do what you're supposed to do. You listen and let him tell the story. He was talking about one of the main reasons Marvel and DC didn't go to court over the Swamp Thing Man Thing, who did it first, was because they would both have to admit they'd ripped off the Golden Age Heap. And I am paraphrasing. Okay, so brought in the Heap. But yeah, this Airboy stuff, man, just has a sense of adventure. And this is around the time that I was able to find Eclipse comics, after seeing these little advertisements and stuff and comic scene and whatnot, whatever comic book news magazines made the grocery store rack, if you will. And I was real excited to find this. I'm going back and I love my Wizards. I've always loved this stuff, as I was just saying, Amazing Heroes and all that stuff. You just need to get those. And if you really want to know about comic book history and real interviews and little tidbits that you will not find on the internet and on Wikipedia, because they're told, during interviews and little editorials and stuff, I think you really need to go back and get all those books, right? So I'm kind of increased. I grab these whenever I can. I always have. But Hero Illustrated was kind of the one where I didn't really go for it. I was into Wizards. You know what I mean? If I want to pay money, it's going to be Wizard. I kind of wish I'd gotten into these, because when you get these, you are in 1993. They're very nostalgic. And this is number 1. And of course, as I'm elbow to elbow and all the competition is fierce, and I'm going through all these books, and I grabbed this, I went, oh, it's bagged. And I grabbed it. Now, the thing is when they were bagging their books like this, they would have all sorts of extra material in there, little zero issues, little preview books, little cards, whatnot, and everything like that. No, no. When I got home and looked at it and stuff, it's just bagged. It's just bagged in a magazine bag, which is fine because the book itself is in fantastic shape. So that's cool. You get into a rush and things, right? Easy Comic Reader. Oh, little Jimmy Fireball. I love that handle, man. Love that handle, man. Good morning to you, man. The Sumerian Fantastic Avengers run. I always remember Thor saying, Ultron, we will have words with thee. Goosebumps. Yeah, I think that might have won an award with Wizard or something for Moment of the Year in comics. That was huge when that happened. The last time a one line in a comic book like that seemed to catch people's attention that I can remember goes all the way back to Alan Moore. Doing his For the Man Who Ever Had Everything Superman annual, where it's Superman's birthday and Mongol has put the black mercy on him, and he comes out of it and he starts like, Mongol's like, oh my god, I think you're making me think you're so mad you could really kill me, and all he does is look at him and says burn with his red eyes, and he hits Mongol with his heat vision. Superman finally used his heat vision as a offensive weapon, instead of a tool. And Easy Comic Readers here. Good morning, sir. Lester, chill out, man. There must be another cat outside or something, man. This should be the Lester podcast. But good morning. Great to see you, Easy Comic Reader. All right. And now we're at the good stuff. So, guys, hold on. I'm going to start with a good book, some mid-grade keys, and then I'm going to show you some Silver Age stuff and one Bronze Age book. Well, Bronze Age, Silver mixed, right? So I told you Sheldon Drum. Sheldon Drum is the guy that if you're into comics, you really need to know the guy. Look him up. He's great. He's super nice. Every time I've talked to him, he's been real nice. And he meets so many people. I know he doesn't remember me. Maybe I think he might know my face a little bit, but Sheldon Drum has this great story where, like, I think in 73 or the 70s, he loved comics so much that he was living in Charlotte, I think, got on a bus in the 70s, now early 70s, and he drove right up to Marvel Comics office, got the tour, and realized, hey, man, I don't think I got what it takes to be in comics. So he didn't abandon it or have a dream. He ended up starting a comic book shop, becoming friends with all these comic book pros, getting original art in the 70s and stuff like that. Knew so many people. He started HeroCon in 82, and it's just gone off from there, having one of the biggest cons, longest running cons that has stayed comic book oriented ever. And we were talking and stuff, and like I said, he's a real nice guy. I was bringing up some stuff, told him how many cons I've seen him for, told him how I've loved Heroes Con, not kissing his ass, but sort of catching him up like we've talked before. And he's got so much original art in Abingdon, Virginia, probably about 10 years ago. They had an art gallery in Abingdon, Virginia that was at the time maybe an hour from me. And Charles Vess has moved there. He's been living there since 1991. But he let them display all this comic book art in this art gallery with history and stuff and the actual books and stuff, right? It blew my mind that there was original Sandman, number 19, comic book pages that Vess had done, and here he is living in the town that they've appeared in an art gallery and stuff. I always thought that was kind of cool. If you create something, put it out, and then it comes back to where you can go visit it and see it. I always thought that was kind of cool. Get a bit of a romanticized view of things, if you notice, right? So anyway, I looked down, and he's so cool. He's got all his books, all his boxes, prices, so to be, but he's got stuff that I asked him. I'm like, what's the deal with these? Is there something wrong with them? Because I went into business mode. And what he did is that he just had a sign, $25 books, $25 books, 10 books, $10 books, $10 books. And then he just has them spread in lines across the table. He's like, no, this is just stuff I got overstock and a lot of and stuff, right? And I didn't even try to, I told him, I was like, you brought me so much joy over the years with your convention. I'm not even going to try to haggle with you. So I ended up getting this for $10. The Amazing Spider. I don't even know what it's worth. I don't even know if this is worth anything anymore, right? But I think this is the direct edition. And if you got the newsstand edition, Peter Parker is dressed as Spider-Man. Now, if I have to buy a book, I have the Superman Wedding album, and I know I've already thought about it. I have the Justice League, the Legion of Superheroes, several wedding issues of Karate Kid and Queen Projecta and Duo Damsel and stuff like that. I've got wedding issues and stuff. But if I have to buy a wedding issue, I think the stupidest thing you can have is the hero in full costume beside of his bride who's in a mermaid dress, And yes, I know what style of dress she is wearing, And that's a John Romita Sr. cover as well, right? So this was a big deal when it came out. There's something else going on at the time to where I didn't buy this off the rack. I got something else. And luckily that became a key. But this is 1987, and Marvel be damned. It is in print. It happened. Okay, this is part of canon and history. I don't care in the hearts of many fans. It doesn't matter that you tried to one more day it and all this stuff. So yeah, too bad. So sad for you. Oh, comic reader. And then this was in a dollar box. This is from the Cherry Pickers. I wish I had their card. I mean, they were real nice guys. It was a guy and his son. His son was sitting there like, let me get those. As you made stacks, his son was keeping track of all these people who had between 30 and 70 books they were getting. Like I said, competition was fierce. This was the place to be there, right? At least for a few hours. And he had a whole run of this new X-Men. And it was killing me because I had the whole run. I bought it when it was coming out. I found this several times. And these were like $1. And I was like, oh gosh, I can't think of any of those keys except for this one, which is fine. And for you guys that don't know, I can't believe this was like 21 years ago. Talk about time flying by. I remember buying this monthly through my comic book store, reading them. I can almost remember every panel what Grant Morrison was doing on these. These were fantastic, I thought. Anyway, but this is the first appearance of Phantom X. What was he? Weapon 13. Wolverine was like Weapon 10. The good stuff, right? But yeah, this is the first appearance of Phantom X. I got the copy I bought. I found one other copy for $0.25, put it on eBay, had no problem selling it. Then I found another one for $1, sold it. I'll be keeping a hold of this. I now have 2 of these, and I'll be holding on to it. So, yeah. Now, this next book I want to show you, this just kind of shows, I grabbed this, but a few months ago, if you saw what I did at a local flea market, I got 22 issues of Nancy Collins, Mark Miller, Grant Morrison, and maybe the Tom Yeats years, whoever's writing before Alan Moore. But I got 22 issues of Swamp Thing, took it to this guy, and he gave me that Marvel Spotlight. I think it's like number 4 or something. But anyway, it's got the yellow cover with Moon Knight on it. It's considered his like 3rd or 4th appearance or something. Anyway, it was like a $200 book, and I got it for a bunch of Swamp Thing that I actually did not have room to put in my Swamp Thing box. But there was one issue in particular that blew my mind because I couldn't figure out why the guy was so excited. It was like Christmas. He thought it was like Christmas. I'm like, man, this guy really loves Swamp Thing. So my buddy Josh and I go to this convention in North Carolina. There's this guy with these books, and he's got this displayed, and he's sitting there all proud saying this is a controversial issue, and people are trying to buy it, and it was like $100 book. I immediately get on my phone, go to comicbook.realm, look around a few things. It's a $3 or $4 book. And then I go to eBay, and I'll be damned, there it is, $50 to $100 at that time. This was in the spring, I think, right? It's a good thing I do these videos to document this stuff, right? I can go see when this was, right? So I was sitting there like, did I make a mistake? I could have stuck that on eBay. I'm not a big flipper, if you notice. Flipping comic books is part of the hobby. I come from that era where you got doubles, or if you found a double, you just used it to fund or trade for more comics. I've told many times and humble bragged many times, there is seriously maybe a decade and a half where I did not touch my paycheck. I was young and poor, don't get me wrong, but I was able to hustle and do things to where I very rarely used the money from my paycheck to buy comics. And very rarely did I buy comics full price, Anyway, but it's this issue, 153. This is a controversial issue, even though it came out in the 90s and stuff, and it's a beautiful Brian Boland cover, right? But this is the Swamp Thing 153. So if you know anything about this, the thing is worth $3 or $4. I didn't go to eBay to see if the people are still losing their minds off of this, but I've seen 2 or 3 dealers had this up on the wall, and I know one guy had it for over $40. And then, like I said, that guy back in the spring or something, I think he was going for $100. So yeah, man, don't believe the hype and don't do it for it. This is why I can't stand the speculation channels and the greed that if you just do comic books online and depend online only for your hobby and stuff, man, you're going to lose a lot of money. You got to do you got to keep your head and just do a 3-minute price check. This one, I have no idea if it's worth anything or not, but I got it for obvious reasons. This is a Wolverine 34 variant edition, homage or whatever variant edition. I think this came out this year or last year. I don't keep up with modern books much anymore, so sorry. But anyway, this is Rob Liefeld doing Deadpool, doing an homage to a great Wolverine cover by Frank Miller from back in the day, 40 years ago or whatever, right? So yeah, I had to get that. If it was for $1. I like where I've come very forgiving of Rob Liefeld over the years. I never actually hated him, but I never personally ever had a problem with him. But I'll never forget getting that New Mutants book where the splash page is Jubilee or somebody running up an alley in Mandapore or something, and he actually has her left leg with a right foot as she's running. That was the stuff that killed me. The guy finally draws feet and he puts the feet, he gives her two left feet, or whatever, two right feet or whatever. Anyway, that was kind of fun. And then I found this, and we stopped at an antique shop on the way back after the convention, and this is where we got the good stuff, right? Yes, I paid $5 for this. A beautiful copy. I say it's mid-grade. 51-year-old book. It's got some dings and stuff, but number 20 was some of the most beautiful Barry Windsor Smith art you're ever going to see. Pack in those pages. Take that in. I love those Conans, man. In my house, Conan was a force. Savage Swords of Conan magazines, Savage Tale magazines. We had Savage Tales #1 in the house, and I was flipping through reading that at 5 or 6. It's the one with Conan having the severed head. Such good stuff, man. So glad to have that. And then got some cowboy books. At this particular comic book shop, months ago, there was a bunch of Two Gun Kid, Kid Colt, and Rawhide Kid books and stuff, and they were $2 and $3 a piece. But I didn't get them because I don't know a lot about cowboy comics. When I was a kid, I liked my Two Gun Kid. I've read some of them. Rawhide Kid, they were in the house. I read them, but when it comes to collectability and having those favorite stories and stuff, no idea. And I'm all right. I'm not that generation. But that's no excuse. So this time Josh and I took a little bit of time, looked it up online and stuff, and got a few things here. But we got Rawhide Kid number 12. And before you get all excited, those little blue lines, somebody drew a pin and he traced where the bullets would go in this shootout, which is fine, right? But Rawhide Kid for $2, number 37, right? If this was mint, this would be a $200 book, More Rawhide Kid, number 58. If Eric Breen was here, he'd be going, hey, But anyway, Rawhide Kid. Some great stuff here. Johnson, some Severin. And then we get into the Two Gun Kid. Two Gun Kid is the cowboy I got into. And as I got older, I realized what they did. He's a cowboy and he's having cowboy adventures, but he wears a mask. They gave him the superhero formula. They gave him a secret identity. So we have a cowboy who's actually got the tropes of a superhero. Of course I would like that. But yeah, Two Gun Kid was the one I really liked when I ran across the issues and stuff, right? I know people love their Ghost Rider. I'm a Lone Ranger fan also. When I was a kid and I was on top of the mountain and we had the rabbit ears to pick up stations, you get random stations up in a place called Jewel Ridge on the top of a mountain. And for some reason, you would be able to get stuff out of Kentucky, West Virginia, and Pennsylvania. That was the mystery state. Where are these coming from? More than you would get down in a town called Richlands that was lower level, lower from it's still in the mountains, but not as high. And I would be able to watch those Adventures of Superman and Lone Ranger shows from the 50s on rabbit ears in the late 70s and early 80s and stuff, right? So there's my, Then we had Young Guns, Silverado. I like the classics, don't get me wrong, Clint Eastwood. But yeah, these are just fantastic Two Gun Kid books. And I've got a feeling I'm really going to enjoy these when I sit down and read these. But like I said, some silver and bronze age stuff there. And I'm pretty sure not all of these are reprints and stuff, right? So I talked about talking to Sheldon Drum and all that stuff and everything like that. And I tell you what, this last Heroes Con, I've said it before, started out a little bit ragged and was able to turn it around. And I really hate that I wasn't able to be social with some people that I ran across. That's always going to bother me because a lot of these people were YouTubers, and I just was not in the state of mind. I was just, whatever. So next year, I thought this was going to be my last Heroes Convention, Heroes Con and stuff, because um, I'm running out of comics I really want, unless I go full on key or something like that, right? But I saw this. Sheldon brought this up. Heroes Con, June 14th to 16th, 2024. Always on Father's Day weekend, guys, right? And I'm like, damn it, I'm getting two. So I'm also at an age where I have a little beat up short box, and I put in stuff like this, flyers, old comic news magazines over the years here and there, not a lot. And I really started picking up things around 1991 and 92 that you would get free from comic book shops. I was able to finally get around to comic book shops. Ended up working in one and ended up practically renting it in 1992, I think. Yeah, it had to be 92. But anyway, I wished I'd picked up everything from every convention I'd ever been, kept all that stuff. So yeah, every now and then I'll find, you know, pieces here and there of things that went with conventions and people had signed the announcements and things like that. So yeah, being 50 years old, having all this history with this stuff, there's a lot of stuff I really wish I'd kept over the years. So I'm telling you right now, maybe don't make my mistake. If you run across things or go to conventions, you might want to just grab things and stick them in a little box somewhere. Could be fun to go through it in a couple years and remember stuff. Oh, we got here. Easy Comic Reader said, "Good morning. Great to see you, brother." The Sumerian speculation is out of control. Todd McFarlane covers for number one. Saw a flaming carrot with McFarlane cover for $40. I've got that. Advertises ultra. Now, we actually had this talk briefly when everybody got together at the con. Josh and I got there. The Independence Virginia crew got there. Like Carroll County guys got there, and we immediately started talking about a few things on YouTube. Like, so this is what I'm saying. Maybe I need to start. I don't watch a lot of comic book stuff on YouTube anymore. Sorry, guys. I've been doing this stuff and watching this stuff since 2010, 2011. There's just so many haul videos I can see. You know what I mean? And I think a lot of these guys believe their own hype. They really think, since they're on YouTube, they really think they're famous, and they mark out for themselves. But anyway, that I'm not saying. I'm just saying what I don't like. I'm not saying they're clowns. I don't know if they are or not, but they come off that way. So anyway, but I had that book. But the one I brought up is the fact that I can't believe that Spawn number one from 92, 93, whatever it was, pretty sure it was 92, came out, and there was a million of those. Literally a million, not just using that as a phrase. And they're trying to act like that's a huge collectible book and stuff. There's a million of them out there. No, it's not. People are just believing the hype, as you said in there and stuff, right? Low print runs my ass. All right, graphic man. I thought of the fossils as soon as I got those. As soon as I got those, I was going through them. I knew you guys appreciate it. Have a copy, met Bob Burden, and he signed and pencil in the chair. Today, it will hurt the price according to some. That's crazy. No, having sketches and signatures up the value. I'm one of those people. I look at it as like, this guy has desecrated my book with ink, but it's the guy who made the book. I know my head logically says it will increase the value. My heart says the book is damaged. You know what I mean? So these people are, let me go back to this. I'm going to go get this rant out of my voice. We slow down and get coherent here, right? People who come up with this bullshit don't know about comics. They're sabotaging you, or they're wanting you to think the book is worthless so they can get it at a better price for it from you, right? This is the shit that I hate. This stuff used to be low level, and people had the common sense to know when somebody was bullshitting them like this, right? I don't know what's going on with these younger kids and stuff like that. Maybe they don't have the same experience. Maybe they don't have to hustle like we did or figure out money and stuff. I don't get it, but people fall for this so much more than what they did back in the day. I mean, really. Never read a single cowboy comic, but hear great things about Jonah Hex. Yes. Yes, like you talk about getting on board late. I got a few I got this comic spectacular or something like that, where it's the death of Jonah Hex from like 1978 or something. I don't can't remember. Got it well last year at RobCom, September of last year, and it made me go back and reread that early stuff because the Cowboy Comics Jonah Hex stuff I saw somehow was like I don't know, in the 80s, and then they brought him back in Hex. Just came out, I just came out in the wrong era to appreciate this stuff. And then the Jonah Hex book, you're talking about the Jonah Hex book by Poliani and Gray from the 2000s. Oh, yeah, I've read a few issues of that. Those were fun, but it never really grabbed me. But like I said, I'm not a cowboy guy. Going to read it digitally, see what the hoopla is. Yeah, it's just a solid book. It's fun stuff. And then I got pissed off, and they somehow, I think they put Booster Gold in it at some point, and I was like, what the hell? Oh, Breen, I only have a lawn, so I can tell these kids to get off of it. That's awesome, man. I didn't realize it, Breen, but whenever I see a rawhide kid comic there and stuff like that, I just hear you yelling, hey, I just can't help it, man. That's how I know you. So I'm so glad you jumped in here, man. So one more time, guys, like, subscribe, sub, all that stuff. But check out Captain Strange Life tonight, celebrating 14 years. I plan on being there. I don't know if I'll be on the show or in the comments, but he invited me on either way. So I'm going to jump on there also, but it's all about him, man. So all right, guys, I'm gonna go over here and yell at these cats some more and take a shower and get ready to get on with our day. So later, guys. Oh, what a perfect way to end the show. Hey, and be excellent to each other.